Hey everybody, this is Eli Cantor. I haven't published a video in about a month. I was interning with a home builder in the Central Coast, took my real estate exam, passed it, but now I'm back here despite an eventful month, and I'm super excited to put out some more interesting content. Also, thank you for watching. If you're here right now, it really means a lot. I appreciate it. So let's get into it. Yesterday, as I normally do, I was looking through the daily real estate news, and this article came up from the Wall Street Journal titled, "Office loans are toxic, apartment loans could end up worse." And basically the premise of this article is this form of securitized debt called the Commercial Real Estate Collateralized Loan Obligation, the CRE CLO for short. And to be honest with you guys, I had no idea what this thing was when I read about it. So I did some more digging. This is a paper published by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. I read through it, I highlighted it, to really get a good understanding of what this thing is and the potential threat that the increasing distress in delinquencies of the loans backed by the securitized debt instrument could pose to the housing market. That was a mouthful. Nonetheless, let's get into it. This one's going to be interesting. All right, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of everything, it's important to keep in mind that if you ask someone who works in commercial real estate what a CRE CLO is, they might be able to answer it, but they will say that this is one of the more challenging topics to comprehend. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to do my best to explain it. I probably won't do the best job ever. So this is just a really kind of strange and niche topic to wrap your head around. Now, let's start broad. The topic we're discussing is something known as debt securitization. This is basically the packaging of debt, of loans, into a security that can then be basically sold to investors. Now, the most common type of debt securitization is something known as the mortgage-backed security. If you've seen The Big Short or are familiar with the 2008 recession, you've probably heard this term. Now, one of the lesser-known types of debt securitization is something called the collateralized loan obligation. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the CRE CLO, the Commercial Real Estate Collateralized Loan Obligation. Now, it's important to highlight a few differences between this and the commercial mortgage-backed security. So both are comprised of commercial real estate loans, but there are a few fundamental differences. Firstly, the commercial mortgage-backed security is made up of loans that are at a fixed rate, while the CRE CLO is made up of loans that are at a floating rate, meaning a rate that fluctuates over time based on a given index. Another important difference is that the commercial mortgage-backed security is made up of loans with longer maturity dates, typically 5 to 10 years. Meanwhile, the CRE CLO is made up of loans that are transitional or bridge loans. These are basically loans that are used to finance short-term improvements and aren't intended to be long-term permanent methods of financing. Now, another important thing to keep in mind about both these securitized debts is that they offer something called tranches. Basically, tranches are levels of risk exposure. So if you get a higher tranche, you're going to be paying more potentially, but you're going to mitigate the potential of risk. If you get a lower tranche, you're going to be exposing yourself to more risk, but more potential upside. Another fundamental difference between the two is that the CRE CLO requires that the originators of the CRE CLO retain this bottom tranche, meaning that in the event of default, they will most likely lose the most. Meanwhile, in a commercial mortgage-backed security, the originators do not have to have any sort of stake and thus expose themselves to less risk. The way these tranches work is that, let's say a borrower defaults. The people on the highest tranche will be paid off first, subsequently the next level, and basically this money will trickle down until everyone is paid off, and whoever isn't, or whoever is partially paid off, won't get anything else. So if you're in the bottom tranche and they stop at the second to last tranche, you're not going to get any money. During the pandemic, the amount of short-term transitional loans that were issued skyrocketed. Let's say you're a real estate investor and you just purchased this property, but you want to make some sort of improvements to it before you rent it out. So to make those improvements, let's say you get some sort of transitional financing, a short-term loan that can finance those improvements before you rent it out to tenants. This loan will be at a floating rate. It'll be maybe for a year or a few years. And then a CRE CLO manager can potentially take this loan and package it into these CRE CLOs. So let's summarize it. The CRE CLO, the Commercial Real Estate Collateralized Loan Obligation, is this sort of debt securitization, just like a commercial mortgage-backed security, but it's made up of these transitional, short-term, floating rate mortgages. But the issue now is that we have 10.8% in the month of July of CRE CLOs that are in distress. This is because as rates have increased, as insurance premiums have increased, along with maybe a lack of due diligence in thorough underwriting when these lenders originated these loans, these factors have significantly increased levels of distress in short-term financing. And thus, these CRE CLOs, which are made up of these packaged short-term floating rate loans, are facing distress. The truth is that there's only $75 billion of commercial real estate collateralized loan obligations outstanding, which is just a fraction of the amount of debt and the amount of securitized debt that exists out there. So don't panic, but keep your eyes open. And it's little things like this that may be hinting towards big changes that are coming. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.